Big up, everybody, and welcome to this first episode of Creator Connect, where
Cause it's the Canes, baby.
it's all about the Canes today, baby. You know, we always talk about Man City on here, but today we're switching it up, and we're going to do this first edition of Creator Connect, where I hope to bring together sports content creators, journalists, broadcasters, analysts, personalities in general, for really engaging conversations about the biggest stories, debates, and trends across the world of sports and beyond. So our guest on this first inaugural episode of Creator Connect is ALEX DONNO. Welcome, sir.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And I've got many friends who are Man City fans. So I
got
know
good friends.
A lot of people. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of them. And obviously I love the Miami gear that you're wearing today. So happy to be here.
Yes, sir. Alex is the host of Locked On Canes and Locked On ACC. The Locked On Canes podcast provides your daily Hurricanes fix with expert opinions, film reviews, interviews, recaps, local analysis, and coverage of all things Miami Hurricanes and the U. From the thunderous touchdowns at Hard Rock Stadium to the lightning fast plays at the Watsco Center and everywhere in between, the Locked On Canes podcast takes you beyond the headlines for the inside scoops of the biggest stories inside the Hurricanes locker room and the ACC. It's a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. But in addition to his work covering the University of Miami, he is a self-described super fan of the Serie A heavyweights, the big boys, Inter Milan. So once again, please, everybody, help me welcome in ALEX DONNO. So I was telling you a little bit, my audience, they know, again, we talk Man City every week or multiple times a week, if we will, but they all know that I'm a Hurricanes fan. And so when I came across your content on Twitter, I was just looking for football, college football, American football content. And I was following you for that reason. And then, I don't know, one day you posted something about Inter. And then I realized that you weren't just handing out college football takes, but you were also handing out football or world football, soccer takes and content as well. And so, that was pretty cool. And then I come to find out that you actually hosted or co-hosted a Serie A focused podcast. So you kind of do both sides very well.
Oh, I appreciate that. And yeah, we haven't been fully active for about a year and a half on the Serie A podcast that I used to host, just because so many, responsibilities with my day jobs covering American college football. But I always have that passion for world football. I'm big into Serie A. I do watch quite a bit of Premier League, obviously a lot of Champions League. So I'm down with it. And it's always great to find somebody else who's as passionate about the Canes as I am, and also world football as well, because, they're those of us who are in the States, there's obviously a lot of big proper football fans in the States, but it tends to be the ones who are fans of it get really hardcore with it. So it feels like a fraternity almost for the Euro football fans.
So I've got this gentleman here, Miami Snoopy, again, as you can tell, 305. He's from the Miami area. He is a Hurricanes fan and a City fan. We just connected via these kind of shows on YouTube. And I told him he's got great taste in sports. Obviously he's a brilliant guy, but I definitely had to shout him out because he's one of my mods, and he helps me out every week. And so big up to him. Big up to all the Canes fans everywhere, but to put, like you said, to world football fans as well. So big up, Snoopy. Appreciate you, man. So let's start with soccer, world football, calcio, whatever words you want to call it. We're going to talk about it. All right. So obviously we just wrapped up the World Cup. Spain won it all. There were several matches there in Miami, played at the Hard Rock. Were you able to, which is, for those that don't know, which is the home of our Miami Hurricanes, were you able to attend any of those matches at all?
No, I unfortunately I was not, because given the demand for credentials for media, since I don't cover. I can get into almost any college football game in the country, humble brag, but it doesn't go the same way when it comes to World Cup. And then Tariq, when I saw those prices to get in with regular tickets to these World Cup games. Now, the exception that I would have made to that, so I didn't attend any games. I watched almost everything on TV. In addition to being an Inter Milan fan, I am a super fan of the Azzurri, the Italian national team, which unfortunately have disgraced the nation, failing to qualify for the last three World Cups. Of course, it comes down to that final qualification playoff. So had Italy qualified, they actually would have been out on the West Coast for the group stage. Had they qualified, I was prepared to spare no expense to go out west and to attend their games. But since that didn't happen for me, I was relegated. I was relegated to watching on the big screen at home.
For sure. Now, are you Italian?
Yeah, my father is from Italy. He grew up in Milan, which obviously,
Okay, because I was going to ask you, how did you become a fan?
Yeah, that's how. So my father, grew up in Milan. He moved to the States when he was in his late 20s, and he grew up, it's pretty common in Milan. I don't know as much about like I'm guessing it's less common in Manchester, cities that have two teams, but in Milan, it's actually pretty common to have houses divided and to have some Milanisti, which are the fans of AC Milan, and Interisti in the same household, which was my father's situation when he was growing up. Like his father is an Inter super fan, so I always say my father was the good son because he followed in my nonno, my grandfather's footsteps. But my father's older brother, hardcore AC Milan fan. And even my uncle, who's my father's brother, he's got two sons. One of them's a Milan fan. One of them's an Inter fan. So I think it's because like in Milano, they play in the same stadium. So there's not like a geographical, because I know like in London, the club you support is oftentimes based on the neighborhood where you live in. But in Milan, it's not a geographical thing. They play in the same stadium, so you can have Inter and Milan fans in any household in that city.
That's fair.
And I was a good son, and I
followed
took my
behind your dad.
allegiances.
Yeah. See, my kid when I got into soccer because of my daughter. She was playing, and I growing up quintessential American, it was all about basketball for me, and she played basketball 1 year and then was like, I'm done. I don't want to play this anymore. But she always wanted to play soccer. So I was like, okay, I'm going to learn. I'm going to be a good dad. I'm going to go learn about this sport. And so, of course, I get into it. I go all the way into it. I pick my team, or my team picks me, however you want to say that.
Yep. That's always the way it goes. The team always picks you.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden, she's like, yeah, I'm going to root for Chelsea. Like, what are you talking about? You're going to root for Chelsea. It wasn't about Chelsea. It was just about rooting against dad. And I was like, okay, so I don't know. I've got to figure out how to be a better father to raise my kids to support the right team. But
it's funny. It's funny you say that because I've got an 8-year-old son, and I think I have managed to fully indoctrinate him on Inter, but it was a little shaky for a while. Like, about a year ago, I'm sure you remember. Now, a few years ago, Man City beat Inter in a Champions League final. It was a close, competitive, 1-0 win for City. But then last year, Inter got their doors blown off by PSG in the Champions League final. It was a huge humiliation. And, like, that game made my son so sad. Like, I really thought he was just going to say, screw this, I'm not going to cheer for this team. But we got through it. He was able to move past.
He's got to get him a lot of ice cream or something like that to help him get through it. That's fair. I was going to bring up, I was going to apologize for it, but I was going to bring up the Rodri scoring that goal to win us a Champions League, which also secured the treble for us. Inter has won their own treble with Jose Mourinho back in 2010. For me, obviously, Rodri that's scoring that goal, us winning the Champions League, winning the treble is one of my favorite moments as a City fan. Not my favorite, but one of my favorites. Yeah. Tell me one of your favorite moments as an Inter fan.
Yeah, I mean, I could easily, and I would say Inter's treble in 2010 was incredible because it kind of happened in typical Inter fashion where they make you sweat until the end. Like in the Serie A, it was very close. For a while, it looked like Roma was going to win the league and that Inter would fall short of the Scudetto, what we call winning the Serie A, but they ended up pulling it out late. I would say the other one for me was I think it was three seasons ago. It was a great recent memory when Inter they secured the Serie A title in their home stadium, the San Siro, and they did it in a match where they obliterated AC Milan, their in-city rivals, which had never happened before. Both Inter and Milan have won many, Italian leagues over the years. Inter has 21, Milan has 19 championships, so you're combined for 40, but that was the only time one of those teams secured the championship by beating the other in the stadium that they share. So that was an incredible memory as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You mentioned, well, actually, I mentioned earlier, City face off against Inter this season, this weekend as we get ready to start the new season. How closely do you pay attention to preseason at all?
Yeah, I do pay quite a bit of attention to preseason. Kind of knowing, I guess you compare it a little bit to like NFL preseason where you see a lot more young players, especially in a summer like this year when, both Inter and Man City have multiple internationals from national teams who just got off the World Cup. So it's like understanding when Inter plays City, like Lautaro Martinez is not going to play, and a John Stones who just made that move. We'll talk about it from City to Inter. I wouldn't imagine he's going to play in that game, and there are a few others from international duty. But I really enjoy watching some of the younger players. Like Inter has a young Croatian midfielder Topalovic who gets a lot of time in the preseason. Like he may get loaned out, but you get to see him. And then one of Inter's kind of younger players who is going to be with the senior team this year. Spent a little bit of time as like a reserve midfielder last year. He's a French international, but he wasn't part of their World Cup squad. Andy Diouf, who scored an epic brace of goals in Inter's most recent preseason game against a German club. One was an absolute screamer from outside the box. The other was from like the corner of the box. The other was a volley from outside the box, and I think he's going to end up possibly being Inter's starting right wing back because they're having a terrible job finding one. Yeah, well, Dumfries moved on to Real Madrid.
Yeah.
He signed, so to replace Dumfries, because Inter has had just and it's very frustrating because they're under American ownership, and no European football fan ever wants American ownership because they treat their football clubs as if they're American teams with salary caps, right? They pay more attention to the balance sheet than foreign owners.
It's a business.
They treat it like a business, so they have been very selective and frugal at the right wing back position. They've had a couple of names linked to the club that just haven't panned out, including Spence from Tottenham, but they're not gonna pony up the funds.
I didn't know he was there.
Needed there. He was linked. But they're not gonna make that move. So I think Andy Diouf might get a lot of time at that position this year.
Okay. Yeah, no, Jed Spence actually had a really good World Cup after that first initial game because City had been linked with him a while back as well. And everybody's like, oh, nobody wants the Tottenham reject, whatever. And he played really well. I would take him as a option for our right side right now. Absolutely. So as we get ready to go into the season, what you guys want to double last season? What are your expectations for this season? Do you go from strength to strength? Do you feel like you're going to drop off because you've lost a couple players, or what do you expect?
I really think that the season would be a huge disappointment if Inter don't win the Italian league again. I think they have, on paper, convincingly the strongest squad in Italy. They did win last season pretty comfortably, on the table, and it could have even been more comfortable, but they had a lot of tough results against like the bigger clubs, but they didn't lose to anyone that was in the bottom half of the table. So I think they could have been even more convincing last season. I think the defense is going to be really strong. Inter plays with a back three, and John Stones hopefully stays healthy. I know he's had the injury issues, but him in a back line with Akanji, who's also a former City player, and with Bastoni, I think makes a really, really strong back three. Inter have arguably the best midfield in Italy and the best strikers. They play with two strikers in their formation, with Lautaro Martinez being really the talisman on that side, and they have good reserve strikers as well. So I think the expectation would be to win the Serie A again. Coppa Italia is another competition. Inter did win the double there. It's the domestic tournament. But if I'm being honest, I don't think they have a squad that's going to contend for a deep Champions League run. I think it's really, this goes to the entire Serie A, the Italian league. I think they're falling farther and farther behind the Premier League, especially La Liga, and then Real Madrid and the Bundesliga they're in a class all their own. Same thing with PSG in France. It's like the leagues aren't great, but two of the top teams in the world. And I think Serie A is really falling behind. The infrastructure in terms of stadiums in Italy is not very good. Most teams in that league do not own their own stadiums. Most of them are city owned, which is, the Premier League is the opposite, which really affects your revenue. They're not spending a lot of money on transfers. So, I guess Inter, relatively speaking, would be best equipped to make a run in the Champions League, but, maybe round of 16, round of 8 would probably be the ceiling. I think they would have needed to have really a more aggressive transfer window, and it's not over yet, obviously, but it doesn't look like they're going to be that aggressive. So I think they would have had to really take a couple of extra steps in terms of the type of profiles of players they brought in to really contend in Champions League. I just don't see it.
Yeah, you mentioned Akanji, who you brought in last season. Now you've brought in, as you stated, another City player. In my opinion, City legend, one who I thought, had he stayed healthy consistently, could be one of, if not the best center backs to come out of England. John Stones. You mentioned the back three, those two plus Bastoni. Where do you think John Stones, does he fit in the middle of the back three?
Yeah, I see him fitting in the middle. I see him being sort of the anchor in the middle, because Alessandro Bastoni, who had spent a lot of time in the middle for Inter, but he's left-footed. I think he's at his best when he plays on the left of a back three, and then I think Akanji probably starting on the right. I think that's the way the back three would break down.
What did you think of Akanji last season? Because I know when he came to City from Germany, he was not highly thought of. We didn't pay much money for him, but he did really well for us. And then, of course, towards the end, like a lot of players do, when they get towards the end, it seems to fall apart with the fans and all that kind of stuff. But I still think there's a player there. What did he add to you all in your team last season?
Better than I expected.
Good.
At the time, at the time when Inter made the signing, and Akanji, the same thing with Stones, was a free transfer. I think it was a free transfer at the end of his contract. And Inter have done a lot of, I mentioned that they're not usually big spenders in the transfer window in terms of the fees, but Inter's director, Beppe Marotta, is known for being one of like the best in the world at finding free transfers that can really help. And so I had kind of low expectations for Akanji, because again, I heard like the rhetoric of him coming from City, like maybe this player's finished or borderline finished. So it was really a pleasant surprise to me. There were maybe a couple of matches where he had some real defensive lapses. We're like, okay, that goal was on Akanji, but overall he was solid, and he provided more on set pieces than I'd realized. He did score some good headers from corner kicks, and free kick crosses, which I was impressed with, because that was something that Inter has done a really good job at. I think only Arsenal had more set piece goals than Inter did in Europe this past season, and they've lost some of they've lost some of their top it's oftentimes it's the defensive backs who have that height. So I see Stones looks very tall, so hopefully he can help. He can help with that. But Inter did lose a couple of center backs. Stefan de Vrij, older. He's a Dutch international. He moved on to a different league. I can't remember where he went. And they also lost Acerbi, who was, an Italian international, but like getting into the late 30s. So it was time for him to move on. He's older. He's a few years older than Stones. So those two were both very good on set pieces as well. But Akanji definitely provided something there.
Question for you, sticking with Inter, but maybe shifting gears slightly. Actually, before I do that, question. You talked about Italy and just kind of how they've not done. They haven't done well. Let's just be honest. They didn't qualify for the World Cup for the last three. They were in the news recently for the managerial search. They thought maybe they were going to bring in Andrea Pirlo, and then what's going on there?
Complete and utter chaos. So they had hired Paolo Maldini to be the director of the Italian national team, and Maldini, a legendary, former fullback from AC Milan, Italian national team. He was part of the 90 and 94 World Cup squad, and 98, I think, I believe as well, for Maldini. So he's legendary. But he's been hit or miss as a director. He was one of the directors for his former club AC Milan a few years ago, and that ended up badly. So they appointed Maldini to be the director of the Italian national team, and like immediately his demand was, okay, we're hiring Andrea Pirlo to be the new coach, which I didn't like that idea, to be honest.
Okay.
Because Pirlo, if you find a few highlights of his resume as a club manager, you can make it look good, but usually he's not really elevated the teams he's managed. Like Pirlo, 5 or 6 years ago, managed Juventus, and it was the first time in literally a decade that they didn't win the Italian league was under Pirlo, and things haven't been great for them ever since. And so, for whatever reason, Maldini, when they ended up, the people over his head would not approve the Pirlo appointment, and apparently it had something to do with Pirlo being affiliated with a Russian gambling site.
Yeah, that's what I read.
Yeah. So it seemed like they had off the pitch reasons why they didn't want to appoint him, and so they blocked Maldini's hire. Maldini had been on his job for I think 17 days when he resigned. Italy found a new director, and they're bringing back Mancini to be their manager, which
former
is
City manager.
Yeah, that's right. And I have mixed feelings about it only because he managed the Italian national team. He already had a run with the national team, and they did win the Euros was it the 2020 Euros played in 2021 because of COVID. They did win the Euros, but they also did fail to qualify for one of their World Cups when he was in charge. But I think something I will say in Mancini's favor is he has shown a good history of working with young players, which I think is exactly what Italy needs, because one appointment that I did not want was Antonio Conte. That was a name that was on the table. But the problem with Conte is he would call up 35, 36-year-olds to play for the Italian national team, which does you no good when you're, trying to qualify for a World Cup in 4 years. So I think the fact that Mancini is good at working with young players, I think could help the Italian national team. But it's felt like a rudderless ship for a while, and I hope they can get it together.
That's what's up. So you're a fan of Inter Milan. You live in the Miami area. I don't know exactly where, but in that area. You now have Inter Miami, home of one Messi. How did you feel when you found out that the team was going to be Inter Miami? Did that give you make you more excited about it, more into it, or were you stop trying to co-opt the name? How did you feel about that?
A little bit of both. When they first picked that name, my initial reaction was, oh, this is exciting, because I'm already a fan of one Inter.
Yeah.
I can now adopt my local as another Inter. But then it got to a point where, as such a hardcore Interista, because my father, indoctrinated me in Inter Milan from a very young age. When I start hearing people talk about another team, I know there are other Inters like in South America, so it's not like Inter Milan is the only one. But when people in my area start talking about Inter, but they're referring to the Miami club, it gets a little weird and it's confusing. When I tell people I'm an Inter fan, I have to explain it now. I'm like, because I'm in Miami, so it's like, yeah, I'm an Inter, and I'm a fan of both, to be fair. Yeah. But if I'm trying to explain the Inter Milan thing, I have to put in a lot of extra explanation there. So it's not the most convenient thing.
Do you think they will because as I understand it, Inter, because they were really an international team, they had a lot of international players. Do you think that Miami will continue? Because I feel like Miami has done that too. They've had those big name DPs. They've got Messi now. They've got, some people would say Messi and friends, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But they've got a pretty consistent track record of having those international players. Do you think that's an intentional choice along with the name, or is that just so happens we were able to get Messi and everybody wants to play with Messi?
I think it is very much intentional, and part of it it speaks to how aggressive Inter Miami is. The owner of that club, Jorge Mas, he's an absolute fanatic about sports, and he's a fanatic about winning. So, obviously to be able to even, because Messi was at PSG at the time, of course, had spent most of his career at Barcelona. Like the idea, and Messi clearly still has a lot to give to the game. Yeah. Like he's on the back nine of his prime, but he's not far removed from his prime. And he's been with Inter Miami. I think this is his third season now, so still very much in his prime when they got him here. I think it just goes to show you the intent of the Mas brothers who own the team, and it's also it's a very good cultural fit. In Miami, because there's a very big Argentinian and South American contingent, so it really helps bring the community together. It's why there's a lot of really good Latin American players, global superstars who play and have played for Inter Miami over the last couple of years. So I think it is very much their intent. That there's a lot of a cultural thing that goes with it, because I've noticed in like the last few years, every now and then there are like Italian players who decide to make the move to MLS, and they'll usually end up somewhere like Toronto, where there's a big Italian population, or New York. And then, for Inter Miami, wisely you target some great Latin American players, because it helps mesh with the culture of the city.
That's awesome. All right, let's shift gears. I know we don't have a lot more time, so I do want to get to University of Miami football. Over the last couple weeks, or actually this week, I think we've seen both Ohio State and Notre Dame, two teams who I won't say I hate, but I will say that I strongly dislike. But they both signed front of jersey patch sponsorships. Do you think that is? Do you see Miami signing a sponsorship like that? And if so, do you have any ideas who it might be?
Yeah, so I haven't been able. There are probably a couple people that I should speak to about it who might be able to give me more info. But up to this point, I haven't gotten any solid info on who Miami might be talking to. But my educated guess would be they are talking to potential brands about a patch sponsorship, and because you mentioned Ohio State has a very lucrative one, 17 plus million. I think Miami could probably command over 10, but I will say though that I think with this becoming a new thing and we're so close to the season, if they can get a good deal signed before early September, fantastic. I know a lot of people don't want to see, you and I, we're soccer fans, so we're used to it.
Yep.
We're used to it. I talked to a lot of college football fans who were like, I don't want that on my jersey. Yeah. It's going to make it look terrible. I'm like, hey, if it gets you 10, 15 million a year, let's go. So I would just assume Miami is probably negotiating behind the scenes, but I don't think they want to sign a patch deal just for the sake of it. I think if they can't, because if you sign like a sub-market deal, and this is me just thinking out loud. Sure. I don't know if they're getting good offers or not. But if you sign a deal that's, $5 or $6 million, then I think that might kind of devalue what that's worth in the future. So I think they want to probably sign the best deal possible. And if they don't get the deal they want between now and September, I think they're probably willing to wait until they get the deal they feel they deserve. And, you know, people will have their opinions, good, bad, or ugly, about University of Miami football. But something you can't argue with is they were one of the most watched teams in college football last year. They actually ended up second nationally in viewership. So you show that to any brand and say, hey, you're going to have, and it looks like a good team this coming year, you're going to have so many millions of eyes on, you know, your patch this year. I think they should be able to cut a pretty good deal.
So as a soccer fan, world football fan, you know that a couple years ago we saw the emergence of this idea of the European Super League. That was eventually shut down, but it's very similar, if you want to think about it this way, it's very similar to what we see in college football with realignment, where, you know, they're moving pieces around to build these super leagues. Obviously, Miami is one of those teams that's going to be top of that discussion. Do you have a sense? Maybe you have a sense where they're going to end up, but do you have a preference where they would end up?
I think my sense and my preference would both tell me if they were going to join one of the Power 2 conferences, I think it would be the Big Ten. I have mixed feelings about it. I think it's a fit in certain ways. One way is academically. That's one of the things that the Big Ten really kind of sets themselves apart. Almost all of their members are certified research institutions, which Miami is, and the Big Ten really likes to flex their academics, as Miami does as well. I would be really skeptical about the SEC making a big move for Miami. One of the reasons is, like, I think Miami over the last 30, 40 years has had chances maybe to join the SEC before. And a lot of members, don't want Miami. Okay. A lot of the members there don't want Miami in for tactical reasons. South Florida is one of the richest high school recruiting grounds in the entire country. And one of the weapons that SEC schools have in recruiting is, if you're competing against a local powerhouse like Miami, you could say, well, we're the SEC. Like, do you want to play your football in the ACC? Or do you
that takes that away.
Right. So if you bring Miami to the SEC, you take that away. And I also think the SEC would be it would feel less urgent for them to add Miami, because they already do have a footprint in Florida with the Florida Gators. And it's not, the Gators are in, northern Florida, north central Florida, whatever that is. But the Florida Gators actually have the largest Gator alumni base in the country is in South Florida. So there's already a big audience there for the SEC. So I think they would feel less urgency, whereas the Big Ten, they want to get their footprint from coast to coast, right? They want to, they would love to go from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast. The SEC, I think, at least at this time, they want to really control the South. You'd say the Southeast, but they're a little bit in the Southwest now. But I would feel like the Big Ten, and I don't love it because you think about the travel miles, like to have I was going
to say, selfishly, I live in Indiana. So bring them on. This is great for me. I'm praying for the day. So yes. It was interesting being in Indiana, rooting for the Canes in the national championship game. It was one of those things where I have a kid that goes to school there. So it was like, well, if we can't win, at least let your school win. They've been really good since my kid has been there. I'm claiming that she's the good luck charm for them. However, I was trying to get her to Miami, but we did the tour, we did all the stuff. Mom was like, that's just too far, so it didn't work out. But if she's guaranteeing national championships, I'm gonna send her down there. We need one this year.
Transfer now. Yeah. Portal transfer.
There you go. So let's talk about it, because Man City often get criticized for our willingness to flex our financial muscle, right? We bring in big name players. We go get the players that we need. With the transfer portal really kind of taking off these last few years, Miami has also been criticized for our recent success with bringing in transfer quarterbacks. Where do you stand on that transfer versus high school recruit perspective?
It's got to be a balance. And I think to this point, Mario Cristobal has found a really good balance. Like, Ruben Bain, Mark Fletcher, Malachi Toney, some of the best players you've had at the program over the last few years, those were all high school recruits, right? But then you look at, Cam Ward, Carson Beck, Darian Mensah now transfers. So I think you can't completely live in either of those zones. You can't just pick a lane. I think you have to thrive in both to really succeed, right? Where, you see, the state of the Florida State program right now, I'm sure there are a lot of factors, but one of the major factor was Mike Norvell, their head coach, just tried to live too much into the portal and didn't recruit well in high school. So either way can burn you. In terms of like Miami being known as, being very aggressive and big spenders in the transfer portal. Yeah, I feel the same way about it that Man City fans probably would feel, is that, hey, like other rivals, like they're envious, stop crying about it. That this is the game. This is the system. We're playing in the same sandbox. We're playing under the same rules. And, Miami's had a lot of success in the portal. The big names they bring in this year. I mentioned Darian Mensah at quarterback coming off a fantastic year. Damon Wilson, the edge rusher, comes off a great year. Cooper Barkate, who played with Mensah at Duke, comes off a great year. So, if you can find a way to kind of walk that tightrope where you're, bringing in, top 10 recruiting classes and top 10 portal classes, it really helps you, because the portal players really kind of help you fill in the blanks and really add sparks to your roster, whereas recruiting, you want your base to be kind of the nurturing and the development out of high school. So I'm just really grateful that Miami so far has been good at both.
I know we're going to run out of time, so we're going to have you back if you're willing to come back. So I certainly appreciate
1,000
that.
times, yes.
But before we get you out of here, let's hit a couple rapid fire questions. What is the biggest rivalry in your mind? UM versus Notre Dame or UM versus Florida State?
Notre Dame is the one that I hate more. I think it's a lot more bitter. Like Florida State, there's some respect, mutual respect in that rivalry. With Notre Dame on both sides, it's just good old-fashioned hate.
So University of Miami versus Notre Dame or Inter Milan versus AC Milan?
Here's the wrinkle. Inter Milan versus Juventus is actually even more bitter. That one's more bitter.
I should have thought about that.
Yeah, no, I mean I understand, because the city rivals versus the regional ones. It's tough. I get butterflies for both. I have no answer. I'm completely on the fence. It's 50-50 for me.
Fair. That's fair. So Miami gets known as tight end U. We've had a number of wonderful tight ends come through. Is there another position that you look at and you can say, we could also be linebacker U, running back U, wide receiver U? Is there another position that you think we belong in that conversation as well?
I'm gonna say wide receiver U. You got Malachi Toney right now. You've got Nick Lanier, who's a 5-star recruit coming in. I think he can be maybe as good as Toney is right now, and Eli Woodard is another great receiver coming in. We haven't. Obviously, there have been great wide receivers that have come through Miami. Of course, Michael Irvin and Andre Johnson come to mind. But I think they've kind of gotten away from that lately. But wide receivers are now very much the topic of conversation in Miami again.
You're a UM alum, correct?
Yeah.
All right. What dorm did you stay in? And out of your years, what was your favorite?
Here's the thing. I was local, so I lived at home because my family didn't want to shell out the dorm money.
Saved you money.
Saved a lot of money. But I had plenty of friends, and I spent the dorm that I spent the most time in was Pearson. Pearson Mahoney, which I think they've either just been torn down or about to get torn down. Spent a lot of time in those dorms with friends.
Yes.
Didn't spend as much time. At the time I was there, Eaton was like the dorm for like the seniors. Didn't spend as much time in that one. Spent a little time in the towers, which have been torn down.
I was going to say, not the towers. I was waiting for you to say the towers.
I spent a little time in the towers. The thing is, they had like communal, like floor bathrooms, which I did
I
not
stayed there.
like. Yeah,
So I only went to Miami for 1 year. I had a wonderful time. My parents said I had too much fun because my grades, really only one class, weren't what they needed to be. Plus, I could come home and go to school for free, or state school for free. So it just made sense for me to come back. But 906 McDonald Tower. So yes, which would have been hecked. So yes,
Yeah.
It was a great time, wonderful time. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I know you got to get out of here. Do me a favor, just plug yourself, your shows, where people can find you, and then we'll let you out of here.
Thank you for having me. Great times. You could find me, find my shows, Locked On Canes. I talk University of Miami football every day. Locked On Canes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and if you follow me on X at ALEX DONNO, I had plenty of World Cup tweets, and I'll be tweeting about Euro football coming up as the seasons are getting underway very soon. Maybe even some preseason. I'll be trying to watch Man City versus Inter. I'm taking a trip to the West Coast, so I'll have to see what the time zone situation is because they're playing over in Asia. So I'll see how that works for me, but I'll be following that as well.
I think it's 7:00 my time, so it's like out west
4
or
o'clock.
our time. Yeah, it'll be like 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's gonna be tough.
Gonna be tough.
Again, appreciate you. Glad to connect with you. This is what this show is for. Creator Connect. Me just connecting with other creators like yourself who are out there doing wonderful things. So I appreciate it. Thanks again, and we'll hope to get you back.
Thank you.
All right, talk to you later. Bye.
See ya.
Big up, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. For those of you that were here and that you heard it. We don't have to get off just yet. We got a little bit of time. If you're out there and you got something that you want to talk about, put it in the chat. We'll just do a quick little AMA, ask me anything. Just drop it in the chat. I know there's a lot that's been going on today. I don't think we've got Buati yet, so that's neither here nor there. So, yeah, anybody will give you a chance to... also, what I'll do is I was gonna drop the link for you to jump on, but I don't know. You guys have been great, right? But we've seen Saeed this week get caught up. So I'll put it in there. If you got something you want to say, you want to come on, I'm gonna post the link in the chat like I always do. You are more than welcome to come on. Otherwise, if you got something that you want to talk about, go ahead, put it in the chat, and we'll try to bring that on. But big up to everybody that came over from the Mancunian Way for the raid. Appreciate you, Martin, as always. Big up to Pat from True City TV. He was here. Appreciate you. All of you guys that are here. Certainly appreciate it. Let's see. While we are waiting to see, let me post this like I said I would. Hopefully you guys will respect the channel and not do us like somebody did to Saeed. So come on, be respectful. Let's pin that message. There you go. The message is pinned in the chat. If you want to jump on, all you got to do is hit that link. Otherwise, let's just do a real quick search of social media, see if there's anything that's going on that we need to be aware of before we get out of here. But big up to my guy, Alex. It was great connecting with him. Hopefully you guys like that kind of content. Again, trying to find other content creators, other people that are doing the same thing, and connect with them, whether we have a college football team in common or we have city in common or whatever. We may not have any team in common, but just wanting to bring new folks on the channel, get connected, and go from there. So let's see what is happening if we just type in what's going on. Let's see. Oh, Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe got let go or left by mutual consent, however we want to say it. Newcastle. What's going on with Newcastle? Because they've lost a lot of players. They've lost Tonali. They lost Gordon. They might end up losing Bruno Guimaraes. That's a lot of change at Newcastle. And now you lost Eddie Howe, and you didn't lose him at the beginning of the window. You lost him basically right before the season starts. Now again, they brought in I don't know how you say his name, but he's the manager. I think it was at Al Ali, one of the Saudi Arabian teams, I'm pretty sure. So people seem to be really high on him. I don't know much about him, so it's kind of hard to say. But we will see what happens there. But it's just interesting. Oh, the other thing that I saw today, and I don't know, Martin, if you're out there, bring you on, because I want to know, is there any truth to this rumor that Tottenham want not just Savio, but also Omar Marmoush as well? So we could see both Omar Marmoush and Savinho heading to Tottenham. I don't know if I believe that. I kind of hope so, but on the flip side, you send a lot of these players over to Tottenham and then they turn around and beat you, you're going to be looking crazy. So, you got to be careful. Don't want to make them too strong. But yeah, let's see. Let's look at City Extra. Oops. See if City Extra has anything out there. New goalkeeper. Of course, we know with Trafford potentially leaving, City have made an offer worth around £2 million for Geronimo Rulli, with Olympic Marseille expecting around 3.5. So there's about a 1.5 million gap. On one hand, I'd just say just pay the money. But again, you don't expect this guy to play much, if any, at all. So maybe you just split the difference to 2.75. But it's not. It doesn't make sense to be arguing and fussing over, £1 million or something like that. I just think you just move it on. Of course, we saw John Stones move to Inter Milan, which we talked about with Alex. So big up to him for coming on and having that conversation. But yeah, that's a big change. So he's excited about adding John Stones to Inter. I'm glad that he landed there. It's outside of the PL, potentially a little bit slower pace, hopefully a little bit less taxing or less demanding on his body, because I've always said that if he could stay healthy, he could be the best in England for sure, maybe one of the best in the world. So big up to John Stones. Hopefully gets everything that he's hoping for while he's over there in Italy. So what are we thinking about this 75 million euro price tag for Rodri? Again, there's going to be a camp that says there is no dollar amount that we'll be willing to sell him for. So, oh, well, he's got to stay. There's another camp that'll say, just take whatever. If it's 40, 30, 40, 50, whatever, just take it. And then, there's some people probably in the middle that would like, well, yes, there is a number. Maybe 75 just quite doesn't reach it, but there is a number and we have to be okay with the fact that he might move on. 75 for me. Not telling you how to feel, but for me, 75 is a little low because we're talking euros. If we were saying 75 million, what was the exchange rate? If I said 75 million pounds, So let's see, 75 million pounds would be 87.61 million euro. So I would take that. I think I would take that and just, be okay with it being what it is. Do I want him to go? No. But the fact of the matter is, it feels like he is ready to go. So let me just get the most that I can, get the best deal for him that I can. And so if I could get 75 million pounds, not 75 million euros, give me that. I think I'd take it and we just move on and call it a day. But will it look like City are being bullied? Will it look like City are being little brothered by Real? Maybe. Should we care about that? Should I care about what it looks like, or should I just make the best deal for what we're trying to do? I don't know. Let's see. City Extra 9 hours ago says Buati met with the City officials alongside his father this week. Discussions were very positive, with the midfielder wishing to join the club. So again, hoping to see that. Semenyo saying he's well rested, ready to go. Appreciates what Enzo Maresca has done so far. Talks about his the expectation of, I don't say perfection, but wants you to do it right. He's got an eye for detail, wants everything to be right, which is quite similar to Pep. So that's a good quote. We will see how it actually works out in real time once this season kicks off. What are you guys thinking? How much stock do you put in this preseason match? My expectation is really low, probably none. But I want to see the team get out there. I want to see them back on the pitch. And I want to see people score goals. I want to see people like a Phil Foden get on the score sheet, because we want to start the season. We'll start the season hot. And so a good preseason for him will help set that expectation for him. So hope that works out well. Rosemary says Rodri shouldn't be sold for nothing under $1 million. I'm assuming she means 100 million here, not just 1 million, because nobody would do that. But yeah, for 100 million pounds, I get it. I think he is worth that. He is absolutely worth 100. But then you start saying, okay, but he's going to be leaving in a year, but he's got this issue with his back that I don't really think is a big deal anyway, but he's got this, that, and the other, right? So there's reasons why maybe while his value might be 100, maybe you don't get 100 for him. But I certainly understand the sentiment and I respect it, right? Because again, I know how valuable this guy is. And let me just say this. I really hope, and I've seen so many City fans or self-professed City fans at minimum, really going hard on this guy and, or saying he's not a legend and all this stuff. Again, you are well entitled to your own opinion, and you don't have to agree with me, because my opinions aren't always right. You know how I know that? Because my wife tells me that. She tells me that I'm not always right, even if on the inside I know I am. Shh, don't tell her. But no, my opinion is just that yes, we're not going to like how this ends, if it in fact ends this summer, but nothing that he could do to take away those moments. I've said that even if 115, if we get found guilty and all these things, right, it's going to suck, but it won't change what I saw on the pitch. I saw us score those goals. I saw us win those titles. I saw us lift those trophies. I saw Rodri bend the ball around the Inter defender and score in the Champions League to deliver a Champions League title and also a treble. I don't care how this ends. That will never go away. You can't take that away just because I don't like how, that he decided after 7 years it was time to go. Would I have loved for him to get to 10? I'd like for all these players to get to 10, but it doesn't always happen that way. I just don't think that there are things that he could do to diminish it, but this is not it. Not in my opinion. But thank you, Rose. Appreciate the interaction. Thank you so much. All right. We go another minute or two. And then we'll jump off of here. Let's see anything else that I'm seeing. A lot of pictures from over in Asia. I wish I knew. Oh, Hong Kong. They're in Hong Kong. Yeah. So a lot of pictures of the new black and yellow, black and gold, whatever we're calling that color, that kit. It does look good. It doesn't look as bright, the yellow, as some of the pictures that we saw and that I pulled up on stream a couple weeks ago or last week or whatever week it was. I don't know. But I'm looking for, I will most likely have that. Absolutely. All right. Rose says, yeah, 100 million pounds. He's that good. Yeah, no, again, he is absolutely World Cup winner, captain of the World Cup team that won for Spain, Ballon d'Or winner. He is absolutely worth the 100 million pound. The question is just, what can you get for him? What is someone willing to pay? And we've seen Real Madrid kind of have this track record of taking players for free. So is he worth 100 million to us if he stays and we get nothing for him next season? Maybe, if we go and we win these competitions. If we don't, maybe it's not worth it. We would have gotten more money if we would have let him go. But either way, I think you make the best choice you can in the moment, and we just got to live with it. But anyway, we are going to call it here. Again, if you just joined, certainly appreciate you being here. If you weren't here, do me a favor. Go back. It's only an hour, only 1 hour. Watch the video. And you don't even have to watch this last part. Just watch the part with ALEX Donno. You don't have to become a Miami fan, although that would be the smart decision for you. If you're going to support college football, you might as well support University of Miami. This is just the best choice out there. But do me a favor. Watch that first part. Get in the comments. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me what you think about this type of content on the channel. Again, for me, it is brand new, trying to do more like that interview style. But really, like I said, it's about connecting with other content creators, someone that you probably have never seen. You've probably never seen ALEX Donno unless you're watching University of Miami stuff, or if you're watching something with Inter. So this is a brand new content creator. Maybe you liked what he said. Maybe you liked his style. Maybe you liked the answers that he gave. And so now you've got a new content creator that you can follow as well, right? So that's what this is about. Big up to my guy, Snoopy. I don't know if you were here for the interview with Alex, but definitely check it out, man. Obviously, you care about it in the same way that I do, even if everyone else doesn't. That's okay. But just give me your thoughts, man. Get in those comments. Tell me what you think. Tell me, tell me who you want to see next. I'm reaching out to some folks, and so tell me who you want to see next. Somebody asked during the interview, "Where's Mo, the other Inter fan?" So maybe I can try to get Mo to come on here, and we can talk it up and chop it up with Mo. Mo's a good dude, so maybe we'll get him on. But if there's somebody on Twitter said you should get Mark Goldbridge on, of course I laughed at that comment. But if Mark Goldbridge, if he's listening and somebody's got to connect and he wants to come on, I will gladly chop it up with Mark Goldbridge. I might tell him that he makes bad decisions by supporting United. I might question his decision making, but he's more than welcome to come on. So if you know somebody or you would like to see somebody featured on here, let me know, because we'll try to do this on a regular basis. So certainly appreciate it. Once again, have a great rest of your evening. Thank you so much for being here. Talk to you later.